Hi there, my name is Jamil Dabir, and in this video we're going to go over some more macros using Microsoft Excel. Before I get started, I just want to mention that we're going to do a little bit more Visual Basic scripting in this video, and it's going to be slightly more involved than we did in the last one. However, I think anyone who has a solid understanding of formatting and borders, that type of thing, using Microsoft Excel should be able to follow along with the Visual Basic scripting portion fairly easily. With that out of the way, let's hop over to the overview. So in this video, we're going to be going over 3 different exercises. We're going to start by taking those macros that were created in the previous video. That's a merge, outline border, and inside border macros. And we're just going to refine them and clean them up a little bit. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to put together a quick receipt using the macros that were previously mentioned, the merge, outline border, and inside border. And finally, we're going to set up a macro to format a large data set. Basically just going to be using some weather data. There's 2 different spreadsheets set up. So we're going to record the macro on one spreadsheet, and then we're going to execute it on the second one. Okay, let's hop over to Excel and get started. So here we go. We have 3 questions. They're basically exactly what was mentioned before. Each one refers to a different macro that we're going to do some refinements on, seek out problems, and try and fix them. So more or less all of these questions are the same. We're going to do all 3 of them at once, more or less. So we're going to go into our Developer tab, click Macros, and we can basically pick any of these. It won't really matter too much, and we'll hit Edit. The reason I said that it won't matter which one we pick is because this script, you see where this line is? That indicates that we have a new macro here. So this is the inside borders. If we go up a little bit, we got the outline, and we got our merge here. So let's start by cleaning up this merge macro a little bit. So I thought about this for a while, and one of the things that caught my eyes was this here. Selection dot wrap text equals false. So that, in my opinion, isn't a great thing to have inside of a merge cells macro. One of the reasons is typically in the past when I've used merge cells, the idea in my mind is we're trying to create one big cell and we're going to have a whole bunch of information in it. Maybe we'll just have one big item that's in a really large font, but we might also just have like a paragraph of text explaining something. And if we did that option, if we went with the paragraph of text, we'd really want the text to wrap over from one line to the other. So I think that having wrap text set to false isn't great for this macro. And then I looked, and a lot of these things don't seem to be really useful. It's kind of automatically setting a bunch of things for us. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just delete all of them. We don't need to set the orientation or the indent. If something was in those cells before that we're merging, my opinion is that we probably want to keep that formatting. And if all else, you can always just go do the right click format and set things the other way. So my mind, merge cells should just merge the cells. So we'll delete this, and there we go. We have a much simpler macro now. Problem I noticed in the border outline, and you'll see I'm kind of going to point this out in the inside border macro, are these 2 first lines of code here. It says selection.borders XL diagonal down dot line style equals XL none. So what that's doing is if you have diagonal borders, either up or down diagonal borders, it's going to more or less erase them. It's going to set them to equal XL none. Now, on an outline, you can make the argument maybe this is only supposed to outline a certain block of cells and we don't need diagonal formatting, but maybe you did need diagonal formatting. Maybe the diagonal formatting was in there for a reason. So in my mind, I think it's safe to delete these 2 lines of code. As we scroll down, I see another similar thing that I kind of considered a problem for a bit, and then I thought about it some more, and I think this is something that should stay. So we have selection.borders XL inside vertical, and also on the next line it's XL inside horizontal, dot line style equals XL none. So the intent of this macro is to just set an outline border on a selection of cells. If there was an inside border on there already, we will actually end up deleting it with this macro, and I think that's okay. I think if someone wanted an inside border and an outline border, they would probably go to the next macro, and that would be the more appropriate one to use in my opinion. So we're going to leave this in where it'll automatically delete any lines that are existing vertically or horizontally. So with our inside border cells macro, this is the last one, we have the exact same problem. See, XL diagonal down and XL diagonal up are being set to none. So those are kind of borders that more or less what they end up doing is crossing out cells. Bit of an odd feature, but we're going to leave it. If someone has that in their cells, there's kind of no reason to take it out. They probably put that diagonal border in for a reason, and we wouldn't want our macro to automatically delete it. Okay, so that concludes the first exercise. So let's hop over to this, I called it a quick invoice. It should be called a quick receipt though. And format the receipt below using the newly defined macros and other Excel tools. So basically what we're going to do is just kind of make this receipt a little bit more presentable. So let's start by doing a merge. We'll select all of these cells here, Control-Shift-M. We'll put receipt in a nice big font just so everyone knows what it is. I like the left aligned look, and for our vertical centering, I like it centered vertically. So that looks good to me. Column A, in my opinion, is too big, so we'll make it narrower. Column B is not big enough, so let's make it wider. And column C looks just about right. One thing I noticed right away with column C is that these are prices, so let's put $sign there. Also some headers would be real nice, eh? Let's get that width. What's our width here? Row height, 15. Let's set this row height to 15 as well. Okay. And we're going to put a number sign here. We kept our old font size from the previous row. Set that to 11. Description, price. These three should be bold. Let's use our macro for inside lines. So we're going to do Control-Shift-I. There we go. That was nice and easy. Here, cell 15C, we actually want a total in there and it's missing. So let's do equal sum. And we'll pick all of our price items. Let's close this off and push enter. I'm not adding any taxes because these are food items and they're generally not taxed, at least not where I am. We could put a bold on our total. One other thing that I kind of find nice for these kind of total lines as a good little finishing touch is to go into your borders, just pick a double border, put that on the top row there. There we go. Looks a little more professional in my opinion. Okay, so we used the merge and the inside border macros in this exercise and did a few other things to format this receipt. So let's move on. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier. We're looking at climate data for Beausejour and Barons River. And in my opinion, this is kind of raw data. It's kind of crude, kind of needs a little work. Sometimes things are cut off. We don't have kind of bold headers for our months. There's a bit of work that I think could be done here in my opinion. This data set's even looking a little rougher. So what we'll do is we'll record a macro, go into developer mode, record a macro, call this weather data formatting, and we'll do Control-Shift-W for weather. Hopefully that's easy to remember. Macro to format weather data reports as our description. Let's go to OK. So we are recording now. So first thing I would want to do, let's pick row 1. Let's set it to bold. Sometimes I use keyboard shortcuts, so Control-B for bold. There we go, it's bold. Next thing, let's set the column width to 15 for all columns. So we're going to pick every cell in the spreadsheet by clicking this top left button here. Right click, go to column width, and we're going to set it to 15 for everything. Okay. Now, row 4 should be bold. These are title, station name, province, latitude, longitude. Control B for bold. Row 14 should be bold. So you can see here are months and year and the code. Those are all kind of headers, important information. Let's bold that as well. This entire column A should be bold. See, we have things here like daily average, standard deviation. Those are all important fields that we should read. Now, the width of column A is kind of inadequate. You can see we have information moving over into cell B. It's just a little bit awkward. Even we've got text cut off down here. So let's pick column A. Let's set our column width to 30. Okay, let's see how that went. It's kind of it's not perfect. Let's see, down here we still have a problem, eh? See, this is probability of last temperature in, and we've got probability of last temperature in spring of 0 degrees. So it's cut off. If we were to print this out and show it to someone, they would probably get confused by these last few rows. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just format all the cells in column A. We're going to set their alignment. We're going to do a wrap text. Go OK. Now you see we fixed one problem and we've created another. So let's pick cell A3 and cell A8. Let's right click them, format the cells, and let's just turn off wrap text for those. So there we go. That looks a bit nicer. And these ones down here, they're formatted in a reasonable way in my opinion. So let's stop recording. Let's move over to our Barons River dataset. And you'll recall earlier I said the keyboard shortcut is Control-Shift-W now that this macro has been created. And let's see what happens here. Okay, so we got our bold formatting in. Bit of word wrapping we can see there. This is kind of looking okay. Down here we've got some wrap data, so that's looking okay. I was certainly tempted to do inside borders. However, that's a bit of a trickier problem because there's actually different numbers of rows in each of these data sets. So setting inside borders, that type of thing, you might have data that would end up falling outside of those borders and looking kind of awkward. So with that being said, let's hop back into PowerPoint and go for our conclusion. So in this video, we explored a bit more Visual Basic scripting. We cleaned up those shortcut macros that were set up from the last video. We also put the macros to work to format a receipt, and we made kind of a new, just big mega macro that allows us to format big data sets. As I was kind of hinting to just a moment ago, it's good to be careful, double check your work, especially if you're using macros, and sometimes you might bump up into sort of limitations with these things. I'm sure there's a way to write a macro that would format that weather data set, but it's not very simple or straightforward, I would say. It would probably involve using Visual Basic script. So things like getting those borders would have been a little trickier. With that being said, I thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you've learned something useful.